What you are about to see is meant only for educational purposes. It should not be deeply misunderstood or misused. Today, we are going to talk about a very deep and core topic. In human psychology, love or sex is not eternal, it is temporary chemistry misunderstood as destiny. We will look at the completely unpolished dark side, the same dark side that Arthur Schopenhauer saw back in the late 18th century. This is Arthur Schopenhauer's Psychology and Philosophy of Love and Sex. As Schopenhauer explained in his famous essay, The Metaphysics of Sexual Love, which is a part of his book, The World as Will and Representation, this is not a romantic story. This is nature's cruel trap, a mechanism that destroys individuals for its own purpose. So let's begin. Main body. Arthur Schopenhauer was a German philosopher 1788 to 1860. He saw the world through two fundamental concepts, the will to life, desire or a blind force, and representation, the way reality appears to us, not reality itself. According to him, human life is deeply pessimistic. Life is suffering, and for an ordinary person, true escape is almost impossible. Schopenhauer considered love and sex to be the greatest illusion of all, an illusion created to preserve the species, where the individual is merely sacrificed for continuation. Today, through his psychology and philosophy, we will explore the core dark side of love and sex, how it is a game of the mind, how it is destructive, and how it turns human beings into slaves of a blind force. The beginning of love, illusion and deception. Love begins with illusion and deception. Imagine this. You see a girl, and suddenly you feel a strange pull in your chest and heart. It feels like true love, like a soulmate. But Schopenhauer says, every kind of love, however ethereal it may seem to be, springs entirely from the instinct of sex. According to him, this is the work of the will to life, a blind desire for survival. Hormones are triggered to trick you so the species can reproduce. Dark psychology says this is not your personal feeling. This is the genius of the species, the cunning intelligence of nature. It creates the illusion that she is perfect, so that genetic mixing happens and a stronger child is born. You believe that staying with her will bring happiness, but in reality, you are just a tool. The core dark reality. This illusion can be so powerful that you destroy your own life for it, your career, your friendships, even your health, all for a temporary madness. Sex as the climax, the peak and the devil's laughter. When love is pursued, sex becomes the ultimate goal. Schopenhauer writes, directly after copulation, the devil's laughter is heard. Meaning, after sex, the illusion shatters. You realize that everything was fake. Pleasure is temporary, but suffering becomes permanent. The core dark side. Sex exists for reproduction, and reproduction creates more suffering. Children bring responsibility, burden, and an endless cycle. Love mixes jealousy, possession, and pain, because it turns humans into slaves of the will to life. Schopenhauer says, the sexual impulse is the kernel of the will to live. Dark psychology reveals that we are not free. Nature uses us, and then discards us. After sex, clarity hits. Boredom begins. Resentment follows. You feel ruined. The psychological destruction of love and sex, why it is so dark. In Schopenhauer's thinking, love is the greatest enemy of rational psychology. It destroys clear thinking. You take irrational risks. You become obsessed. You fall into depression if love is unreturned. Even in mutual love, conflict is unavoidable. As Schopenhauer writes, the sexual impulse in all its degrees and nuances plays not only on the stage and in novels, but also in the real world. This force confuses humans, controls them, and ultimately overthrows them. A story that reveals the illusion of love and the devil's laughter after sex. Once upon a time, there was a young German man named Lukas. He lived in central Germany and was a 28-year-old railway engineer. His life was normal and structured. He went to the office regularly, working for the German railway company. On weekends, he met friends in the evenings. He preferred peace and routine. He was somewhat stressed but overall mentally stable. Then one day, everything changed. At a company party, Lukas met a woman named Anna Christoscher. She had just joined the company's marketing team. The moment Anna entered the room, something shifted. Love at first sight. Her confident smile, intelligent conversations, curvy figure, everything about her felt appealing. Lukas felt this was a special connection, as if fate itself had planned it. But in core psychology, this was nothing mystical. It was a hormonal game. A dopamine flood hit his brain. The reward system activated. His heart rate increased. Norepinephrine created butterflies in his chest. This was pure evolutionary programming made selection at work. Soon Lukas began checking his phone day and night, waiting for her messages. His thoughts revolved only around Anna. He became madly in love. During those days, Lukas felt genuinely happy, as if for the first time in his life he had found energy and purpose. At first, his productivity at work increased. But very quickly, distraction took over. He started buying expensive gifts, luxury perfumes, royal dinners at fancy places like Mette. He spent hours on dates, long walks along the Spree River. He began ignoring his friends' calls. His focus on career goals faded. He even missed a promotion, all because of his obsession with Anna. The attachment grew so intense that if Anna replied late or talked to a male colleague, Lukas felt jealousy. Anxiety attacks followed. His chest tightened. Sleep disappeared. Yet Lukas kept telling himself, "She is my soulmate. We will build a perfect life together." But according to Schopenhauer's Metaphysics of Love, this was the work of the genius of the species, a cunning mechanism of nature. The blind will to life was deluding a human being for genetic compatibility, so that stronger offspring could be produced. This was not true love. It was an unconscious drive fooling the conscious mind. At its core, this kind of romantic obsession can trigger depression and anxiety disorders. Then came the intimate moment. Their relationship was consummated, sex. For a brief time there was deep pleasure. Bonding hormones like oxytocin surged. Everything felt complete, meaningful, fulfilled. But the moment it ended, the real psychological crash arrived. The devil's laughter was heard. In Schopenhauer's words, this is postcoital tristes, a documented psychological phenomenon where sadness, emptiness, or emotional collapse follows orgasm. The illusion breaks, the illusion shatters. Lukas slowly begins to realize that Anna's habits now feel irritating, her lazy attitude, her constant complaining. Their personalities clash. He is introverted. She is extroverted. What once felt like destiny now feels like incompatibility. Her beauty, once overwhelming, was only initial attraction. Now instead of happiness, there is boredom. Resentment replaces excitement. Small arguments turn into big fights. Under pressure and emotional attachment, they decide to get married. Children are born. And now, the real cycle of suffering begins. Financial burdens increase, rent in Berlin, children's education, daily expenses. Emotional exhaustion follows, constant compromises, no personal space. Jealousy never fully disappears. Lukas slowly loses his freedom. Work-life imbalance grows severe, and eventually he falls into chronic depression. Schopenhauer would say this is the psychological truth behind most love stories. Love is merely a tool of the will to life, sacrificing deep individual happiness for the continuation of the species. Millions of people like Lukas fall into this trap, facing mental health struggles, anxiety, dysphoria, lifelong regret, while nature, the species itself, silently continues its cycle. The real escape, according to Schopenhauer, lies only in ascetic living, minimalism, detachment, or in deep self-awareness. Otherwise, the cycle repeats again and again. This story is inspired by real patterns, where the initial high of love feels like psychological addiction, but in the end, it often leads to pure disillusionment and suffering. Arthur Schopenhauer and Caroline Medon, a dark love story. Arthur Schopenhauer was 31 years old when he was lecturing in philosophy in Berlin around 1820 or the spring of 1821. He was already deeply pessimistic. He believed the world was a place of suffering, and that life itself was driven by blind desire. During this time he met 19-year-old opera singer Caroline Wilhelmine Richter, whose stage name was Caroline Medon. Caroline was a well-known actress and singer. She performed at the Berlin Opera House, and Schopenhauer reportedly attended one of her shows. Their meeting took place within Berlin's cultural scene, a world where intellectuals and artists frequently interacted. The beginning, intense attraction. Like many such stories, it began with strong attraction. Schopenhauer was impressed by her beauty, talent, and charm. Caroline, in turn, was attracted to his intellectual depth. However, Caroline was free-spirited. She valued independence and was known to have multiple romantic relationships. Their relationship lasted on and off for nearly 10 years. At times they were close, at other times they argued and separated. Schopenhauer experienced mixed emotions, sometimes happiness, sometimes deep jealousy. He grew suspicious that Caroline might be interested in his wealth or reputation, especially since he had inherited money from his father. There were also concerns about her health, including fears of illnesses such as tuberculosis, which troubled him. Over time, Schopenhauer became extremely possessive. He was jealous of her other lovers and began to consider her untrustworthy. The dark twist: in 1823, Caroline gave birth to a son named Gustav. Schopenhauer refused to believe the child was his. At the time of conception, he had been traveling in Italy from May 1822 to 1823, and the child was born about 10 months later. He convinced himself the child could not be his. In 1826, Caroline became pregnant again, possibly by Schopenhauer, but she suffered a miscarriage. This event ended her Berlin opera contract. Schopenhauer found the entire situation disturbing. He feared health risks and complications. He was known as an eternal bachelor. Although he occasionally spoke about marriage, he constantly doubted Caroline's motives. Jealousy, fear of illness, and general mistrust shaped his decisions. He once famously said, "To marry means to grasp blindly into a sack, hoping to find an eel among an assembly of snakes." To him, marriage carried more risk than reward, especially with a free-spirited woman like Caroline. Caroline wanted marriage and stability. Schopenhauer refused. He believed he would lose his freedom and peace. The final separation: in 1831, a cholera outbreak struck Berlin. Schopenhauer left the city and moved to Frankfurt. Caroline refused to abandon her young son and stayed behind. This became their final break. Later, she sent him a letter saying she was healthy, but Schopenhauer ignored it. Caroline eventually married Louis Medon, who later left her. Schopenhauer remained alone and retreated even deeper into his philosophy. The psychological meaning: this story reflects how, in Schopenhauer's own life, love was associated with suffering, jealousy, mistrust, and disillusionment. His dark psychological view warns against idealizing love. To him, love was not purely romantic, it was a biological force driven by the will to life, often at the expense of individual peace. Like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, is love real? On this channel, we will continue exploring the hidden faces of core psychology.